welcome back to Chronic Talk. This is the podcast where we talk about chronic illnesses, disabilities, mental health, and everything else that comes in between. So I'm your host, Mykayla Lynn, and today I'm sitting down with an old friend of mine, Mianna. I'm so happy to have Mianna here because she's one of the strongest people that I know. She tends to stay very grounded, and I'm just excited to have her just share her story. And we're going to talk about what it means to live with chronic illnesses, disabilities, managing day-to-day layers of life, and where that has brought Mianna to today. So Mianna, I'm so excited to have you here, and welcome to Chronic Talk.
Thank you so much for asking, by the way. I feel really honored, honestly. Yes, as you know, my name's Mianna. And wow, it's been a while since I've talked to you, actually.
Yeah, so it has been a while. Mianna and I were pretty good friends in high school, and we lost a dear friend of ours, and we reconnected at their funeral. And since life has just been busy for us both, and I reached out because growing up, I just feel like Mianna was a big part of my life, and a lot of where I learned so many things, just like my uncle, where I was able to be like, wow, like life can look like this, and this is how you would deal with it, and this is how you would do this, or this is how you would attach this piece to your vehicle. Like there's so many little things that we had to talk about, just running to the store or something, or the day that we spilled our Slurpees. That one stands out to me because like that day we ran out for Slurpees in high school, and I just remember us dropping them because like we were in a rush. But that day I learned so much from Mianna because it was like one of the first times that I've been in her vehicle and not mine. And so I actually did get to see what kind of hand controls she used and how she drove and everything, which I had seen my own uncle do. He's a paraplegic, but two very different ways of driving and managing life and all of the things. So what we're going to do here, Mianna, is we're going to jump into just you as a person. So what's your favorite hobbies? What do you like to do for fun?
I mean, it's really changed up over the past couple years, but recently it's more of like, I liked my drawing a lot. I don't do as much physical drawing on paper. It's more like technology on an iPad thing. Love my video games as always. I have picked up sewing.
Love it.
Love those diamond painting things, and I picked up reading again too because I used to read a ton in high school, but I just kind of stopped for a long time, and I picked that back up again, and then just spending time with my cats and my boyfriend and my friends. That's really all I've been doing. Oh, and photography. I have been getting back into some photography stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, now that I have an actual camera too, because my boyfriend's mom decided to just give me one. And
Amazing.
so, yeah, no, I felt very special. I was like a full nice camera too. And I was
amazing.
like, okay, thank you. Like just met you, like had only just met her not long. And yeah, no. Whole
and
camera.
Digital drawings too. I love that because you've drawn like as long as I've known you, but I love that you switched to the digital drawing because that can be so much easier and you can do so much more.
Well, not only is it easier, I just, finding a proper table and spot to draw is really hard nowadays for me. I just don't have like more funding wise when it comes to that, which hopefully soon here though it will be better and I can do some more physical stuff.
Right.
But it's really useful to be able to have the iPad at this point.
That's amazing. Okay, so let's jump into your diagnosis, Mianna. What age you received that and how things looked after. So did you need follow-up surgeries? Did any other following diagnosis follow, etc.?
Yeah, so when I was they say that about 11, like when I say they, I mean my parents or anybody in my family. I was about 11 months old when I developed bacterial meningitis. And it's very uncommon for people in general, like any age, to really survive that type of meningitis. And it started as a flu. And that's what the doctors thought. And so my mom just watched me. And one day when she took my temperature, I was running a fever. So she, tried to help with it, tried to keep me comfortable, but just out of the blue, I started having a really hard time breathing. And so she ended up calling paramedics. And so when the paramedics came to our house, they had seen that my left lung collapsed actually. So like I really was having a hard time breathing. And so they instantly got me into the ambulance. They started rushing me to the Stollery Hospital. But I from my understanding, I believe it was that I flatlined on the way there. So they did call like the STARS helicopter and they shut down the highway so that they
Wow.
could just like transport me a lot faster instead. So yeah, I got there. I'm not sure what much happened in between that time, but I know that while I was in this hospital, I was put into the burn victim unit because my skin just started like I don't even know how to explain it, just like eating itself away, and that's why I have all the scarring
Right.
and on my face and you name it. And so changing bandages was so hard because I was a baby. I had no idea, they had no idea to know if I was in extreme pain. And they also, they were giving an 11-month-old baby like morphine, and they just didn't want to risk doing that so much. So they ended up putting me into a medically induced coma. And I was in that coma for about 3 months. So during that time, being able to deal with me while I'm asleep, way easier. I spent my first Christmas in the hospital. My first birthday was in the hospital. And then during that time, the meningitis had gotten so bad in certain parts of my body. So like I'm missing my toes except for my big toe. It made me a below the knee amputee on my left leg. And then they were originally going to take my left arm. But my mom was like, no, you just took her leg. You're not taking her arm. I refuse it. And so
Right.
she fought like against like 3, 4 doctors. And these 3, 4 doctors were like, no, we have to take her arm at this point. Like it's black, it's dead. There's no point. But then a surgeon, a plastic surgeon specifically, randomly heard about my case and decided to come in and was like, okay, so here's the deal. I have an idea. It's not guaranteed that it will save her arm, but it might. So they took my elbow and they sewed my arm underneath like my area here and like on my chest or whatever you want to say, rib cage area. And they did a big skin graft on my back and took a bunch of the dead, like as much skin as possible that was like just practically dead and replaced it. And then I came out with the little baby arm that everybody loves nowadays. And yeah, it just made me get this like I don't even know what to call this. People call it the button, my elbow, and this is where it was sewn to my body.
Right.
And yeah, no, I have my hand and arm and everything, but I have like for example, I don't have any knuckle or
Right.
anything because I can't like mobility wise, I can only use really my pointer and my thumb finger, and that's about it. And I can't even technically move my wrist or anything. But
Limited movement, but I've seen you do a lot. I've seen you do
yeah,
tons.
yeah, no, that's kind of the most shocking thing is when people would like first meet me and they would ask me things like, "Oh, how do you do this? Are you able to do this?" Or they'll ask me if I need help, if I'm struggling with something. I'm like, "No, no, I'm good. Like just give me a second. It's just gonna take me a second." Like I've had like people randomly in public come up to me. I think one of my favorite encounters was when I was really into the working out and going to the gym and stuff. And I had just a random gentleman come up to me while I was using some sort of equipment that requires your arms. And of course, because it's so much shorter than my actual arm, I would, jimmy rig everything.
Of
And
course.
one of the things I constantly used was like those like workout rubber band things that
Yeah.
but not like the big long ones, like the smaller ones. And, wrap it around my wrist, wrap it around the equipment, and that's what I do. Or I would use what are those called? Not medicine balls, the weight balls,
Yeah.
like heavy ones. I would use those if I was like needing to go on all fours or something to just, balance my body out. And yeah, no, some gentleman just came up to me and was like, how did you manage to figure this out? Like how? And I just looked at him and I was like, well, you see, like this is my normal. I've been like this since I was a baby, like before I even had memory. Like I just, I was taught to just figure things out and, and I know that I can usually do anything and everything and there's like only a handful of things that I can't do. So,
Yeah, you can.
but like this gentleman was like, "Wow, you are so inspiring." And I was like, "Ah, thanks. Like, thank you." And yeah, no, like random moments like that just really helped growing up too.
Right?
Cause
And like sometimes we're like not sure whether to take like those inspiring comments like good or bad, or sometimes you do take them good or bad, but sometimes they really stand out to you like in a good way like that. And I mean, I've had plenty of moments with you where I don't know if I would use like inspiring, but like very educationally purposeful. Like you just show that there is a way, you show that there is like the willpower to do so, and you'll figure it out. And I think that that is incredible.
yeah, I gotta thank my dad for that one, as stubborn as he was. He really drilled into my brain, like, you can do it. You can do it. You just might have to do it a different way. Like, you're good. But yeah, so I mean, that's where the surgeries first started. And, you know, I, um, I had so many appointments and I have so many doctors, even now today, freaking 24 years later. Like, I've had, they say, 30 surgeries now, and they're counting still because it's not so much surgeries that I need now. It's more of like if I want plastic surgery stuff done at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
So luckily, a lot of that's covered for me. Um, they're I'm working on mouth surgeries right now. So
Okay.
that's where
Which
the
you've
counts.
had plenty done already too, right?
Yeah, my dad makes a joke saying that I'm gonna have the $1 million smile, and it's quite literally going to be like if you add up all the numbers realistically.
Aw.
But yeah, no, I've had surgery on my ankle, my good ankle, so well the only ankle I have. But
Yeah, so explain the prosthetics a little bit because growing up with you, you went through a few different types. They've also
Mhm.
evolved. So can you just share a little bit of that with our listeners too?
Yeah, for sure. So just growing up, the easiest way to really handle a child growing and to work with a prosthetic is to just, use something that is cheap and easy to make, honestly. And the one prosthetic that I used for a very long time was I don't know what it's called exactly, but like if you have your like your socket for your prosthetic and then you have your stump that goes in, like that part there, it used to just literally slip on. There was no pin system, there was no latching system, you name it. Like nothing kept it on. I just had a sock go over my leg and it went into a socket. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was made out of a titanium pole and I don't remember what they used to finish it, but yeah. And that leg, like if I was running, it just fell off. And so I started a habit of wearing jeans constantly just so that it would stay on. Not really anything bendy wise in the ankle like how they do now. And then when it seemed that I finally stopped growing tall wise, I had met my prosthetic doctor that I have now, and he recommended so it looks the same with the socket, but then instead of a sock going onto my actual leg, it's a gel liner that you have to literally roll on. It's
Okay.
quite an interesting thing. And then on the prosthetic itself, you put a like rubber sleeve over top of it with a fabric outside, and then you put your leg in and you roll that up. So it's held on by like that silicone part that like the silicone inside of it, and then there's a fabric on the out. Yeah, and then the other one is connected to you could wrap it over my prosthetic, and then you insert like it's called a stub, they call it term wise. My stump for my leg, you insert it into the socket, and then you roll up that other gel sleeve, and then it eventually grabs onto like my thigh skin thigh. Sorry, and that's how it stays on. And
Okay.
then, so different way of holding it on, which helped a lot. It was kind of hard to get used to just because I wasn't so used to my leg being so secured. So the pressure of it like really changed the shape of my leg. I had, I'm kind of a special below the knee amputee that have a very short stump compared to most below the knee amputees. And then another thing is I actually only have one bone actually in my stump area, like where your calf would be, because the two bones, like the one wouldn't stop growing and it just constantly caused problems. So they were like, okay, let's shave it down. Okay, let's shave it down one more time. Okay, it's still growing. Let's just take it out. So they just took it out. And so now the bottom of my stump is very pointed, which gives me which makes it a hard time for my prosthetics because I'm impacting the bottom of it so much.
Right.
But so just not like having that pumping motion really helped. And then there's suction mechanisms and stuff like that. And so after I tried this one for a bit, we went into talking about different like feet now, different foot for my prosthetic. So I got a foot that was a little more buoyant, it had more roll over my toes. So it wasn't just so like a 90-degree angle thing anymore. It was
Right.
more like 90-degree, but then I can roll over the toes nicer so I could actually step smoother.
Right.
So that was a life changer for me. That did so much for me. I ran into the problem though of my toes would eventually practically almost break off on my prosthetic because you have the inside of the prosthetic itself and then you have a shell foot, it's called, the shell of the foot. And so the shell would break. And then because the shell would break, it would go to the carbon fibers in the foot. So then the carbon fibers would start, chipping on cement and wood and just wear and tear. So I was going through feet like no tomorrow. And then thankfully, my prosthetic doctor was able to find a more sturdier foot.
Yeah.
Same thing with the rolling over the toes, much easier. So that was good.
And are these covered for you, Mianna? How does the coverage look on, like, I'm going through multiple feet? That can be like a big cost.
Yeah, I mean, just my regular walking day foot is around like 2 grand each time you do
Wow.
it. So, I mean, I am covered through the government and funded through war amps.
Okay.
So that's the one really beneficial part is I've had everything with my legs covered. And especially before I turned 18, I even, looked into different legs to do different things.
Right. Do you have to have a swimming one?
I do have a swimming one.
I
Yes.
thought I remembered a swimming one. Way
Yeah, I
back when
do.
I was like, I thought I remember there being a different one.
Yep, I do. I have my swimming one. I mean, I use it more along the lines of having to walk around the pool, but when I'm actually swimming, I prefer it off actually. It's
Oh,
much
okay.
easier.
Like weight would probably not help, right?
Actually, no, it floats.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, so that's a really big beneficial part of it is that water leg, yeah, it floats. So if I were to just lose it for whatever reason, it should just come floats up to the top
So
and
what
we're
makes
good.
it easier to take it off for you?
So I think a big thing about my water leg that makes it easier for me to swim without it is that I was a professional swimmer. And I think I was 7 years old. And I wasn't in the Paralympic stuff or anything, where you swim against other disabled people. No, I was in just a regular swim class. And so I just, being able to take off my leg that really had no use for me was the best thing. And so I always swam like that. I trained like that. I was at swim meets like that. I scared the crap out of parents because when it comes to standing on the diving board, I had to stand there with one leg.
Yeah.
My grandma was my swim coach, and so she would come with me to the diving board and then I would take off my leg and hand it to her, and people would just be like, "Oh my God, what is she doing?" I've had so many parents come up to me after I've done a race, and they're like, How do you do that?" And I'm like, "I just have really good balance. I don't know."
You've
So
had to learn how to have really good balance, haven't you?
yeah, exactly. And thank God I have my big toe, or else I wouldn't be able to balance at all. Seriously, if I thought of it.
Yeah, that's why like when people get diabetes and it does take their toe, well, it tends to take their toe first, their big toe, they lose like all the ability to balance. And I couldn't imagine what that would look like in terms of learning without your big toe.
Yeah, I mean, they took all my other toes too, so it's like you got to leave her with the big toe at
Yeah,
least.
right? Something.
Exactly, something, because I've heard it before too, the same stories like, oh, I know somebody who lost their big toe and they just struggle so hard to just even walk. And it's like, okay, well, makes sense. And so that just messes up someone's everyday life at that point. And so, yeah, no, there's my water leg. I have a running leg, not like the regular running legs you would see for sprinting or something like that. My leg is at the ankle, it has the little running blade. So it's more for jogging, maybe
Okay.
a faster jog. It came in handy for a lot of times, like, especially when I was working out there, I really did like going on the treadmill. So, like, beautiful, so nice to do that. The only thing with it that is a big flaw is the fact that that blade for where the spring comes in for like an ankle I don't have, it sticks out at the back a lot. So when I'm going down the stairs, like I'll go down the stairs and catch that thing on the stairs, and I'll just could take a tumble like at
Oh,
any
yeah.
moment. So I always have to be really cautious going downstairs or whatever equipment I might use or whatever activity I'm doing, even just to be aware of like, okay, well, first of all, this thing is going to get in the way at times. And second of all, it can become very hazardous to the people around me. So, I'm constantly thinking about others around me too when I need to just really realistically think about myself.
Right.
But, I can't because I've had incidences in the past where I've actually hurt people with my leg because of the titanium of it. My sister, when we were kids, I was swinging on the swings and my legs weren't finished always, especially because of how much I grew and stuff. So we were laying on our stomachs on the swing. So I had my leg kicked out and me and her like back of her ankle clicked together with my fake leg. And I ended up cutting the back of her heel really close to her Achilles tendon. Like, and I'm 5 years old at this point. So she's screaming, there's blood everywhere. That was traumatizing as hell for me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and she's like, she's so upset with me, and I don't understand until, I figure out that it was my leg that did that. And, I just felt horrible. Like I felt so bad. And even before then, younger, I had a support worker to just kind of help my mom with the fact that I had so many appointments and so many doctors I had to go see. The worker was like spinning me around while she was holding my hands, and my sister got too close and I knocked her in the face with my leg, and I ended up like just cutting out a big inside of her cheek. I felt so bad again because there's blood everywhere again, and there's and she spit something out in her hand, this like whatever it is in her hand. I have no idea what it was until I was older and I was explained that it was the inside of her cheek. And so I'm like, oh, okay, there's some more, like I hurt my sister by accident, totally like unpredicted. But like ever since then, and I've had more incidents like that in the future too. But I'm always in constant anxiety to a degree when it comes to certain things I'm doing with people around me,
Yeah.
because like I don't want to hurt anybody, but I have to be mindful about this just foreign object that is supposed to just help me live.
And then you get
So
like used to it being there, right? So you start treating it normally, and then you have to think again, like, oh, wait, like, don't hurt anybody.
yeah, no, it just became, it's really hard growing up to like, think about that in a lot of ways.
You start to get used to the prosthetic leg being there as if it was your leg, and then you get this anxiety and fear with it that you're going to hurt somebody because of these past PTSD moments that you've had with your sister of like seriously hurting her. How did you overcome those fears and start to manage that and make it a part of normal life?
Oh, I've never been asked a question like that. I think I just kind of got used to the point of, being mindful of my leg, or like, growing up, you roughhouse with your friends or your siblings. So if I was ever roughhousing with anybody, it was like, wait, pause, take the leg off, continue.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, right. I mean, like It's been used a couple times to stop people from running away, but hey,
Gotta do what you gotta do.
literally. I mean, no, it's just has become very funny stories when it comes to having to take my leg off, honestly. Yeah, no, I think it's just a mindful thing of,
Yeah,
and then it really helped when my leg was being like started to get covered. So where my calf would be, it was just titanium pull.
right.
And then they started putting a finishing over it. So that really helped. So now it's just sometimes I step on people's toes and I don't feel it and it hurts them way more.
Yeah.
So, or it's I don't know how my boyfriend ends up doing it, but he somehow always stubs his toe into my foot. And it's like he gets like he comes in too hot or something, and then he just there goes the toe right
He
into the
comes
foot.
in too hot.
And it's my boyfriend's an interesting character, I'll say that. So he just does these funny things or walks to me funny or like chases me or whatever. And yeah, no, he's the lucky fella that just
I
gets
haven't
stuff.
met him myself, but he seems very loving and supporting from what I've seen. So, how long have you guys been together?
It's been almost 2 years now. I mean, almost, but it'll be 2 years in October.
And do you feel like that, like having that partner is like a really solid support system for you these days?
Yeah, he's honestly like he is my rock, absolutely. Like I need this boy. I've become so like dependent to a degree, like just like not even just physically, but like mentally and like even physically. It's gonna sound kind of odd, but he'll massage my nub for me if it's sore
Of course, yeah.
because it's like practically having a tight shoe on all day.
Yeah.
And it hurts sometimes, so he'll to relax me for the night, he'll give my nub a massage with some cream.
I'm sure he has to like grab a few things for you here and there too. Like Mianna's pretty short already, guys, but I'm sure he's grabbing a few high things for her and doing some stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially because I don't have the same arm
The
length
same
either.
reach.
Like,
Yeah.
I scare the crap out of some people because I'll just like literally grab like one of those baking spoons or
Just
spatula
like,
and I'll like,
give it to
yeah,
me.
yeah, literally I'll knock it off, drop the spoon, and catch the thing. And
Yeah.
people are just like, you could have just asked me. I was like, I'm just used to doing it alone. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah,
I
you
don't know what.
became very independent over the time, which I feel like many of us do who have any sort of challenging like disability, mental illness, chronic illness. You become very independent in so many ways. And you've done that with grace. So like good for you. But it is nice to hear that you do have somebody that can kind of help in those moments.
Yeah, I gotta say, life has been a lot less like chaotic and stressful having a partner like I do. It's like, I think that's one thing that's really important when it comes to partners is like, like looking for a partner or telling the partner, not telling the partner, sorry, looking for a partner will that is willing to learn how your body works with your disability or even mentally is
Yeah.
so like so important. If you have a partner that is not willing to, put all things aside when like for example, before I got this prosthetic that I currently have, I dislocated my knee a lot on my left side. So my knee would swell
Ouch.
and like I couldn't wear my legs, so I couldn't walk. When I almost dislocated my knee once with him around, and he was just so willing to understand. He was like, "Okay, so is there a way that we can not have that happen, or is there something that you need to do to help speed up the process?" And he's so willing to ask questions and even go on social media or on the internet to search things up.
That's so
Like,
sweet.
right, right.
Education is key. I mean, like, that's literally what this podcast is. Like, education is key. And by advocating and allowing other people to understand what you're going through, you can get less of like the ignorant comments, I guess, in between, and you can get more educated comments that feel wholesome, that feel helpful, not things that make us feel worse in those situations. I think that's something that really stuck out that was just a great example like that was that show Love on the Spectrum from Netflix. Abby like starts to learn how he sees colors and numbers and starts to learn all the numbers. I thought that was just beautiful because that's not how she interprets colors. with her autism, it's very different than his. But she asks, well, they go out, what color is that? What color is that? And then she starts to spit out and be like, that's color 3. I think that's so sweet to just fully understand what someone's going through.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest key things for a relationship, especially with a person who has mental illness and disabilities. Like I don't know. It's honestly, when I think of it and think of like a lot of people in my life and stuff like that, like growing up, unfortunately, my dad, thank God, he was stubborn to teach me to be independent, but he was also sometimes really mean about it. If I was having a hard time doing something, he'd be like, "Oh, well, Mianna, some people are missing their arms. You have your arm." And that mentally got to me. Not only that, but like physically, it's just growing up around that constantly. He wasn't the only family member that said stuff like that. And so, having a significant other that's like, you understand that you have limited mobility in your hand, right? And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
good.
yeah, I do. And he's just like, no wonder why you're struggling right now. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and he's like, you deserve help. I'm like,
Yeah. And take a moment and let somebody help you, right?
and yeah, no, I like sit there and like, so almost teary eyed, like, what do you mean I deserve help? Like, this is my life. I have to figure it out. And he's like, no,
Exactly. Yeah.
you have a disability.
Exactly.
Like chillax, you have a disability. There's some things that you are not going to be able to do or you need help with, and that's okay. I mean, even my friend that I had at the time, the one, Kristen Smith that we went to
Yeah.
school with,
Mm-hmm.
she also was the first person to kind of drill that to my head to be like, you're disabled, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
This is not your fault, right? And I'm like, no, but it's my life. And it's like, yeah, it's your life, but guess what? You don't have to put it all on yourself all the time. Like you physically need help. Like anybody needs help at times, like,
Yeah.
and like don't think that way in the sense of like, oh, I can't be help. I don't deserve help because like, yeah, you're lucky you have your arm, but like
But you do
I'm
deserve the help regardless, right? Like you can give props to your dad, like you did earlier. Thank you for making me a strong, stubborn person. But on the flip side, you can also say that, that is super unhealthy. I do it to myself and I'll be like, yeah, well, I just have this chronic illness and like it's not as severe as somebody who has like cancer. So what am I bitching about? No, it's not. That is a correct statement, but it doesn't make my journey any less of a struggle for myself. This is what I'm going through. This is how I feel about it. And I'm okay to feel that way. You can feel that way. You can 100% have limitations and all of the things and still be an amazing person who does so much on your own and who is so independent. And so I think that you have done such a good job at the beginning of this of saying like, thank you, Dad, for making me a strong person. But then sitting here and recognizing that in some of those moments, some of the things that were said to you were not maybe the most healthy way to explain that to a child or a young adult.
Yeah, especially as a child, like me myself with I'm wanting to work with foster kids in the future. So, I've had to do a disabilities class
Yeah.
and just listening to some of the like stigmatism to it or like just hearing the way that some people do talk about it. It's like one thing that I have a hard time with is working, not just physically, but also mentally.
Yep.
And, it really makes me, I already feel like such a burden itself with the fact that I don't contribute with working, but like, okay, I get disability. Awesome. At least I'm not having nothing, right? But, hearing from, friends and family that say stuff like, oh, you get your money for free. It's like, it's not like I want this. It's not like I
But you
want
think
to.
that this comes for free? Hold up. You think that this comes for free?
Yeah, I literally
There's the problem.
I had to almost die to get this for free.
Yeah.
Like, lucky me.
Multiple times, might I add. Like, not just once. Like, it wasn't just like she got meningitis as a baby and almost died. Like, almost died numerous times, had multiple life saving surgeries as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it's just, it baffles me. And, I try not to be emotional about it, but as I've gotten older and understood, okay, like I am a disabled person, like this is my life. Of course, I'm going to be in different places than other people. Of course, it's going to take me longer to get to different places and goals than other people. And, now I get a little more emotional when people say stuff like that to me. I'm like, how dare you? Like, how dare you? Like, put yourself in my shoes.
Yeah.
Like, you might be able to think of what I feel like. but you will never be able to understand because you can't experience what I'm doing and what happens with me. Like,
100%.
it's completely, like it's unfair, honestly.
I mean, it's like when able-bodied people go to make things for disabled people. Like I have this conversation a lot with my uncle, but as well as like his friends or people that I do meet at events and stuff. And it's come up numerous times. But like, how can you be the deciding factor of how much funding somebody gets, or how many catheters somebody gets, or what kind of mobility aid that they get? Or you mentioned earlier in this podcast, like funding for tables and stuff. Like I heard the other day that funding for a cushion chair versus a non-cushion chair was a problem. Like, please? Like, no. Like, you as an able-bodied person should not get the decisions over all of these life-changing things and factors and aids for disabled, mental illness, all the communities.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when it comes to government stuff and funding like that, it honestly drives me up the wall hearing what they spend like tax money on and everything. Like, okay, I'm a person too, I get taxed, but like I feel a lot better if the taxes went to other important things like what you were just saying for disabled
Right.
people or like for kids in care or
More
families in
mental health
need.
resources, addiction services and resources, like all of it, right?
Yeah, but instead we're spending millions of dollars to make a new, what the heck, Rogers Place, like a new arena for hockey.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we've got people who are just bitching and complaining about, I pay taxes. Nah, 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 nah. It's just like, well, yeah, you pay taxes and then somebody else decides on where it goes, and where it goes, it's just stupid.
Yeah, and it definitely can be. And I mean, like, we all have our own opinions, and that's totally okay. But I think one main thing that able bodied people or people with no chronic illness or no disability or ailment in any form, they tend to get quite comfortable in their life until it happens to them or it happens to a loved one. And I like feel grateful in the sense that I had a lot of people around me to really just open that mindset and not be so ignorant with stigmatism and all of the things. But then it did happen to me. And I don't think that I had like a huge change because I did have a perspective of that before, but there was still definitely a shift. So could you imagine having absolutely zero education and then it happening to you or a loved one? Then of course you're going to just become not ignorant overnight. And like, that's great. But I would love to see some of those things calm down and people become more open and start talking about things and advocating before it happens to them.
Yeah, honestly, like one of my own personal, not beliefs, but personal views is like, we it's really important to focus on, racism and hate crimes and all of that. It's just that it seems like it's such a huge, huge thing compared to, rather than educating people like in maybe, some form of school type about disabilities or just being
Yes.
aware. Like my roommate's ex-partner, because my roommate has been friends with me for the past 10 years and just sees me as Mianna, like doesn't even really recognize the leg anymore, doesn't
Right.
like the arm is not even there, like she
To me,
just
you have a
Mianna.
normal arm.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. That's exactly. And so I met his partner at the time, and like one of the things that my friend was always so not intrigued, but wanting to do is spread awareness of like the disability parts of someone with a disability, and
right.
also like, just generally like, oh yeah, my friend has this and this, and she does all this and this, right? And so one of the things was just randomly out of the blue, they were like, you need to touch her elbow, right? Like the elbow on my left
Yeah.
arm. It
Yeah.
is squishy and soft, right? But his partner at the time was like,
Like, that's forbidden. Oh gosh, I couldn't touch her elbow. Yeah.
like and it didn't like many accounts like that happened while they were in their relationship, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until the one day where I was like, you understand, he hasn't grown up around this, he's never been around a person like me, and that's
Yeah.
why he's uncomfortable, because yes, of course, he's out of respect and friend like and not make me feel like shit, he's going to put himself in outside his comfort zone that he's used to and be like, yeah, no, touch your arm, ha ha ha.
Yeah. But he's
But
not sure how to act, right? Like, he's like, ooh, like,
he's like, I want to touch your arm, but I don't want to touch your arm. Like, and it's very, like, I love it when people ask questions rather than just assume and stare. Or
Yes.
also like straight up tell me, like if for whatever reason it is brought into a conversation, my elbow, and you're like, I'm not there with you yet. I don't want to touch that. Like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Just
Like
say that, right?
being open with someone with disabilities is like kind of like a really key factor, I would
I
say.
agree. Honesty, just like transparency. I think one of the like coolest people I know. I'm just gonna rave about you for a second, Brittany. So Brittany is my uncle's friend, and she has Empowered Para for YouTube, and just the education. Like I'm just so stunned by her all the time. Like she's just always doing the forbidden topics, always being like test that boundary, advocate, and spread the awareness and do the things. And I just feel so like grateful that there's people out there that are like that, and that like you will challenge people and be like, no, feel it. I want to educate you. What? And then explaining it, right? And when I was a kid and like we were friends, it was so everything was so normal. Like I said, like your arm was normal to me. Like I didn't see you differently because like you're an amazing person. Like I met your soul. I connected with your soul. I'm not there for your external body and how something may look or how something is presenting itself. Like that's just not right. And I think that a lot of people like to judge a book by its cover, but then you meet these amazing souls and you're like, hold on a second. Like people need to start opening this up and talking and saying, you need to respect this and start understanding this, because a lot of the times ignorance comes with being uneducated. And that also falls in things like the LGBTQ community. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but I think that a lot of those things go hand in hand with ignorance, because you are only ignorant because it's not happening to you or someone you love, or you didn't educate yourself enough. So if you are being mean and you're being racist or homophobic, or you're being awful to the disability community, chronic illness, mental illness, educate yourself a little bit more and then come back to us.
Yeah, no, I just, as a person with disabilities and who's also an empathetic person, I totally understand how awkward it is when you haven't seen someone physical like me, and you're like, what happened? Like what? Trying to process. I totally understand that. I mean, I would think the same way. And I mean, when it comes to kids, it's different for me, but when it comes to like going older in age, knowing
Yeah,
that like staring is kind of not a like is not a thing that you should do, you know?
it's not
If
nice.
it's not nice, first of all, it makes me feel like a fucking freak, sadly, but I mean, also I'm used to it, but also if you were to just come up to me and say, I'm sorry, I'm just really curious on what
What's your
happened.
story?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your story? I've had so many people do that to me. And the thing that drives me nuts is when people come up to me assuming they know my story or assuming
Hmm.
they know what happens. And that's how they start the conversation, being like, oh my gosh, were you in a fire? And it's like, I don't know why. It just drives me nuts. And I remember when I was a teenager and I had this older kind of lady. She wasn't old, but older. And she came up to me and she just grabs my hand out of the blue and she's like, bless your soul, you're such a survivor. And I'm like, you don't even know who I am. What are you talking about? Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
And she's just like saying stuff like, oh, God, and all this. And she made a comment about a fire. She thought I was in a fire. And she was so determined and hell bent that I was in a fire. She didn't even care to ask anything else. And you know, I was quite the person when I was a teenager too, so I had fun with it, and it's so mean of me, but I played along with it, and you know, I got the waterworks going, and I was like, I tried to go in to save my brother, and I couldn't, and da 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 da, like I went with it really badly, and
Yeah.
then so she hugged me, and I started giggling, and I start wiping tears away, and she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I wasn't in a house fire. Like I had meningitis as a baby and almost died, but I wasn't in a house fire. And she was like, how dare you, you mean girl, blah, blah, blah. And I was
No,
like,
how
don't,
dare you, you mean girl?
yeah, no, literally. I was like, no. Listen, you can't just come up to somebody who looks like me and assume you know what happened. These look like burn scars, but they're not. You can't do that. That's just ignorance. Like, honestly, don't assume you know.
Don't assume you know. What a good phrase.
Yeah, no, honestly, don't. Especially Like even rounding back to that, oh, you get your money for free thing. Don't see
Hmm.
me, no. You think I like to not be able to work? I love working. My body physically can't handle it right now though, because I gained a lot of weight really fast. And that's a huge thing that I have to look at when it comes to my prosthetic even. If I have too
Yep,
much weight on me, I'm dealing with prosthetic
of course.
after another, fluctuating. And then now not only am I having the problems with prosthetic, but now I'm looking at my body shaming myself because it's like, you're too fat now. Of course, you're not going to be able to stand for 8 hours because you're too fat. But it's like, no, actually, you are also missing a leg.
Yeah, and it came with a lot of mental challenges as well. On top of the limitations, like it is harder to work out. You do have to have the ability to maneuver and manipulate your weights, your machines, all of the things. So it can come with challenges to even get to that point of starting to lose weight and be able to do that. And then you feel, bogged down in your mind, and that doesn't help anything. So, what are some of the things, Mianna, that I guess you do to try to take care of your mental health or try to bring your spirits up?
Well, I mean, when it comes to my boyfriend, like being around him, absolutely
Yeah.
being around him, like
You
having
play
some.
video games together too?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I play video games actually more with my brother because he lives a couple provinces away, so it's like the only time we can spend
Oh,
time together besides like when he comes down for a couple months once a year.
yeah.
So playing video games with him is a thing. Journaling has
Nice.
really helped me through a lot of different things. When it comes to realization, when it comes to just rereading a page, being
Yeah,
like,
reflecting.
yeah, it's helped a lot reflecting.
It's good.
When it's summertime, I love being outside. I still do my hula hooping, just not as often.
Hey,
Yeah, so I love my hula hooping.
are you still swimming at all?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to get into it because I do love water and it's really, really beneficial for my body in general to be in like
Yeah.
a cooler pool.
Honestly, everybody's body is really good to be in the pool. And if you're having a hard time working out, just like a little aquasizing movement in the water takes a lot of pressure off.
Oh God, does it ever
Yeah.
like because of my leg, like my hips go out of place, because my hips go out of place, my back goes, because my back goes,
Yeah.
my shoulders, my neck, I got tension headaches
Of
constantly,
course.
like all the time. And I don't have the funds to be able to pay for massage and chiro or physio, which I know has helped me. And that's like, another thing is like if I want to go to work and I'm going to put my body through all this work, I'm going to be suffering because I don't have enough money anyways to pay for those kind of things. Like it's
Yeah, and
hard.
then are you gonna spend what you're making, right? Like sometimes I have a hard time because like my hips and stuff go out a lot. My joints are just so loose. Like everything's just out all the time and it gets really tight. And so I'll need like a massage or chiro just to be able to get to the next job. Whoa. Maybe don't hit it just to get to the next job or whatever. But then sometimes you're in that little bit of like, I just spent today what I'm going to make tomorrow to get to work tomorrow, but I'm doing it for the bigger picture. And that can be really hard because it applies to everything. Gaining weight. Yeah, okay, well you have to start in this like small bubble because that bubble affects the bigger bubble, right? Like everything is so connected. And I know it can be really hard to like hold a full-time job for anybody with severe challenges or anything. I've had multiple conversations with people already on the podcast who find it really difficult to work because they're like, this is a full-time job. And I very much consider your life a full-time job. The amount of appointments that you have to go to, the amount of I've just damaged a foot, I need to go get a new foot, like all of those things, they're really adding up in your life.
Yeah, no, it's like not only that, but when it comes to, I grew up in an interesting childhood and, having already all these things that I knew I had to deal with as I got older and became an adult. And then, on top of it, some mental health problems and childhood
Yes.
trauma. And then on top of that, physical stuff. So, and then, they always say that the mind and the body work together to be well. And it's like, how are you supposed to stay mentally well if your body's not physically well?
Yeah, and I mean, girl, you know you had a physically hard life, but I know you've had one hell of a mentally hard life as well. So
Oh yeah.
for doing it with such empathy and grace, I always give you props for. You are such an amazing soul. All of this was, meant to be for a reason. And you know that, like, life has a greater purpose, and you've put so much purpose into other people's lives. Like, you do so much greatness with all the ability and power that you have. And regardless of how you were, growing up and the circumstances you were growing up in, you've now managed to create a healthy life for yourself with a boyfriend and, looking forward to the future and fostering and doing all of those things. And good for you, because there was 10 other bad paths that you could have chose in the meantime.
Yeah, honestly, I do think about that sometimes. I don't give myself a lot of props to, realize where I was compared to now.
Unfortunately, that comes with empathy. You talked about it earlier too, about like not giving yourself enough grace, or, like I do that too, where I'm like, oh, well, it's not bad enough because you have it worse than me. Well, that's not fair to say. You can't, then so what? Then you're going to go on the street and find somebody worse than you and then say that your problems aren't great enough because there's somebody worse that you found. That's not fair, right? So giving ourselves some more grace, like educating other people is important, but also allowing yourself the space to handle everything.
Yeah, honestly, that's one thing I would say for people with chronic illnesses and disabilities and you name it, is like making sure that you can have empathy for yourself. Like don't, I don't throw it out constantly being like, oh, I'm disabled, oh, I'm disabled, I can't. No, don't constantly do that. But like still you still need to be able to be empathetic to yourself though.
Yeah. Like you
Like,
can do it, but it's okay to say that there's limitations. And
and
that's something your friends have taught you, your family, right?
yeah, no, it's sad to say that, like, even when I started driving and, I have to have the spinner ball like on a forklift in order to drive because I'm too close to the steering wheel with my left hand. But even with that being said, I also have a handicap plaque because
Yeah.
I have a fake leg, and opening the door to get out with my fake leg needs to be a little wider sometimes and shorter because when I get in, I can't grab the door with my left arm or anything. Like, it's too short and bonk myself in the head. But again, my roommate that I've been friends with for 10 years, they were driving with me the one day, and literally there was a handicap parking spot, and there was a regular parking spot right beside it. And I chose the regular parking spot because I felt bad because someone out there has it worse than me and deserves the handicap parking spot more than I do. And then my friend just looked at me and he's like, you really just wanted to park right beside the handicap spot, right? I'm like, yeah, why? Like, what's wrong with that? And then he was like, you're handicapped, right? And I'm like, yeah, but somebody else needs it. And he was like, you need it. You need it. Like, and it made me laugh so hard because just the way that my friend is as a person, like, and that was true, sadly, too. It's just that I grew up around people that just always constantly told me that, like, oh, no, I don't need it.
Yeah.
And no, it took other people that I barely known throughout my childhood to, point out those things of like, yeah, no, I'll literally go to a different parking spot that might be a couple parking spots away from a handicap spot because I feel bad.
Stop doing that.
I'm working on it, I
I'm
swear.
serious.
I'm working on it. I feel bad. I've actually literally had an able-bodied person. I hate it now that I say it like that, but an able-bodied person, this gentleman, a little bit older, like maybe 60s, I would say. I got out of the car. It was winter, so it was colder, so I was fully dressed. And I parked in a handicap spot, and he just came up to me out of nowhere and was like, "What are you doing parking in a handicap spot?" And I like just looked at him baffled. Like, the first thing that came to my head was, do you see my face? Like, it's very visible that there's something wrong with me physically because of my face. But then, he continued on being like, you're a young person. You don't need a handicap spot. Blah, 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 blah. And I just looked at him and I was like scratching my head. And then I was like, I got a question for you. Can you see my whole body? And he was like, well, no. I was like, oh, good. So I took off my sweater, showed him my arm, and I rolled up my pant leg. And I was like, now how stupid do you feel? And he just
My
looks.
question would be, why do you need to see your whole body to feel like your opinion matters more? And I guess that's where my problem lies a lot with people being even like homophobic too, okay? Is like, why do you think that your opinion matters more? Or why do you think that they're not allowed to feel that way, to have pronouns that way, to any of the things? Why do you feel the right to say that any comment like that, you know? They shouldn't have to see your body. You shouldn't have to prove anything. Your face should not be some sort of indicator for an able-bodied person to judge whether or not you deserve the handicap plaque that you got.
Yeah, it's like it's in my car and that's all you need to know.
Perfect.
It's in
That's
my
it.
car. So
Yep.
what? Like, what do you want from me? I just
What if you
people.
like had MS, like an invisible illness that they couldn't see? What if you had a chronic illness that is completely invisible? There is no external indicator, and they felt the need to comment on that? Like, for what?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Like, that's why when I saw what your podcast was all about, I was like, this sounds like great. Like, bring awareness, like, and hopefully people who may even think that way can listen to your podcast one day and, already be like educated more about stuff like that.
Oh
Like,
gosh, I hope.
people just coming up to me being like, "Oh, why are you in a handicap plaque?" And it's like, because I'm missing a limb.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And I really hope that that helps in the bigger picture of things that, people do feel like they can talk about things or advocate more. But I can't say that it was all for you guys. I love to educate myself. And I feel like even talking here today with you, I've been friends with you for years. And I'm sure that there's a good 2 or 3 things that you've said today that I've never heard. Like, my uncle tells me things to this day I don't feel like I've ever known about him. And like, I'm 24, I'm learning, I'm educating, I'm taking courses, I'm doing all the things to like evolve as a person. And so, like, there might be something that I need to learn from this, but something that I've already learned and I can share, or you've learned and you can share. And I think that's the only way that people naturally educate themselves anyway.
yeah, I can't remember what the definition is for it, but like it's when somebody is so hell-bound on the way or things that they know that they've read off social media is like the right way. It's called something about being like not embarrassment. What is that word? It's like it's something about being embarrassed with intelligence. Like you need to like as a person to learn and such, you need to be willing to get embarrassed by the fact that your intelligence might not be like all that is out there. Or, like to learn, like I can't remember what it was called. Oh
I
God.
get your statement, girl. Like, I think a good example was even at the beginning of the video, we were talking about swimming, and I was like, why is it easier to take off the leg? What? Because like the leg just like sinks, and you're like, no, actually the leg floats. Awesome, thanks for teaching me that. That's so cool.
Right.
That makes so much sense. So why do you like taking it off, right? So then taking a step back and oh gosh, okay, yeah, like totally, it can't be that. What is it for you? That's the re-educating, right?
Mhm.
Re-educate yourself. I want to know. Okay, well, if it wasn't my automatic assumption, which we shouldn't do, then what is it? What makes it easier for you? And that's a part of the intelligence and educating to further make yourself advocate for other people and be able to like go up to somebody and not have that ignorance of being like, you're a burn victim. Don't have that ignorance.
No, like even I have my main massage therapist that I usually go back to and I'll see frequently or stop sometimes, whatever, depends on what's going on with life. And he was really interested to learn over the fact of like, because of your leg, do you have back problems? And I'm like, yes. He's like, okay, please tell me if I'm overstepping. I'm just curious as a massage therapist person who hasn't worked on a person without a limb or without the arm that you have. And so he asked me one day, being like, can I work on your arm? And I was like, please, please work on my arm. Like,
Yeah.
like he was like, okay. is there anything that I need to know about it? And, then I said, like, okay, this is a really sensitive spot that I don't like being touched or pressured with and
Yeah.
whatever and yada yada. And so because of him working on my arm, it just like it loosened my shoulders way more than I've ever
It's
had
amazing.
before in my, yeah, right, like in my entire life. Or he also will massage my, like I take my leg off during my massages, and he will even, ask me if I want my nub work done. And I'm like, absolutely, always, please, because
You have feeling in your stump and like nub, right? Like you have nerve endings and feeling and everything, right?
yeah.
So when he works on the muscles that are like to your knee, that would help your back as well if he could have the understanding to work out the muscles through your leg, right?
Yeah, no, it really does because, you have like I have a portion of calf muscle, but like it's like a ball almost because of just the fact that it's so small and the fact
Right.
that I need to overwork it. And so being able to release a part of that like will take tension like off my thighs or something. And because
Mm-hmm.
that's tension off my thighs, my hips feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And then because hips then back, then it's just like nobody really I didn't even understand until I started seeing my massage therapist how important it is to work. I have these wrist problems for whatever reason, but we thought it was carpal tunnel, but no, it was actually realistically a muscle in my shoulder back here that
Yeah.
just like worked down from my back of my arm to my elbow, and then from my elbow went onto the top of my forearm and just caused.
Everything is so connected. And we talked about mind body too. Like, as much as every part, every nerve ending, every muscle, everything is connected, so is the mind and body. Like, they emphasize a lot in the previous years with the education that's now backing it, how much your mind affects your gut. But they are starting to really work on the whole body picture. I mean, like, when you're getting a massage, if you get, your whole back worked on versus your shoulders, that could do two totally different releases for a pained area. And I think that they're starting to realize how interconnected our bodies are. And maybe some people we say that sometimes. We're like, oh, our bodies are so connected. Or like we say, oh, the world's like such a small world. But no, like it really is. Like all of this is really a fact.
Yeah, no, it's really just like wild, especially having to, take the courses that I do in school to learn about mental health stuff. And then,
Yeah.
even that it has helped me reflect on, my own life stuff. And then I think about it really deeply and I'm like, if I only knew this sooner,
Yeah.
I think I'd be way more farther in life with my life than where
But
it
how much
is.
farther are you going to be now that you know it, right? Flip it.
Exactly.
Like you're
Exactly.
doing this because you are making yourself an even more intelligent person. And you are such an empath that this intelligence backing the empath part of you really like calms my soul on my own end. That I'm like, as a friend, you're more type A, you're really empathetic, all of the things. That tends to happen to a lot of people though that have disabilities or chronic illnesses or any of the things. And unfortunately, that tends to burn you out. So learning those like coping mechanisms and all of the mental health portions through school, all of those things are really going to help you be a stable person to allow you to also do all of these humanities things that you're working on, which I think is so good.
Yeah, no, I mean, counseling also itself has helped a lot because I mean, even
We love therapy.
right? Like therapy has helped not just mentally, but sometimes I've have talked about, I didn't realize how traumatizing it probably was as a child to see my sister get hurt by my leg.
Yeah.
But it just was a random thing that popped up in therapy once. And my counselor was like, holy, that's traumatizing. And I was like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? What do you mean? And she was like, well, you were a 5-year-old watching your sister just gush blood
From
because
your
of
leg.
because of something on you that's not your
Yeah.
fault. And I the gears start turning and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
holy, yeah, no, that's intense for a child.
Yeah.
Really is.
Never mind all the other intense stuff. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners today, Mianna? Like something that you wish you knew from the start, or something that you feel like you haven't got to say today? Anything of the sorts?
Just, reframing, just don't assume, just don't
Yeah.
assume. I'm sure a lot of people have anxiety when it comes to, people with disabilities that are seeing that for the first time. I mean, I think I can say for a lot of people with disabilities, we prefer the questions. We
Yeah.
really don't just ask if you really need to know, not really need to know, but even for education purposes, you know?
Yeah,
Like if you want to hear that person's story and it changes something in your life, then obviously you're doing
I agree.
so.
Do you want me to share your socials, Mianna?
Oh yeah, you could if you totally would like. Yeah.
All right. So, if any of the listeners here today want to find Mianna or connect with her, or you feel like you have any burning questions that you'd like to ask or anything of the sorts, you can find her at lover_4, as in the number 4_death. Lover_4_death. You can also go under my followers and you can just type Mianna and you can try to find her there as well if that's easier for you. So thank you so much for sharing your story today with us, Mianna. Like, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, it's honestly like I didn't think that in years I would just, be doing a podcast just because of my, because of who I am, It's quite, it touches a different way. It really does. So
Good.
thank
Good.
you. Thank you for thinking of me.
Of course. Yeah. Like I said, like on our own personal, like I want to try to reconnect now that I do feel like our lives are just a lot more in a place where we're able to work on that and go out and do things. So thank you again, Mianna, for the honesty, the strength, the storytelling, all of it, the vulnerability, like really everything. I really appreciate it. And this is why Chronotalk exists, is to just open that and crack it open a little bit, get people thinking, get people being more vulnerable and stop the ignorance. So I'm really glad that we talked about all of that today. And if this story resonates with you, please make sure to share it with a friend, leave a review, or message us on our socials at Chronotalk. You can also email me if you have any questions. And to anyone out there struggling, you are not alone. Your pain is valid. And if we could say anything here today, it would be that there's a whole community here who gets it, and we would love to connect with you. So until next time, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, and keep the conversation going. Thank you.
You're welcome.